Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for Stage 3 of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift from Reims to Epernay, 134 k's long and a puncher's stage because whilst the climbs weren't, I would say, numerous, we only have, well, 4 categorized climbs, they were very steep. Côte de Mutiny, still can't get it right. 1K, 11.5%. Then the Mont Bernard, which was after a 10K valley, 700 meters, 6.9%. That was like 4.5Ks to the finish, which itself, the last 250, 300 meters of it was like 8, 9% plus, really punchy finish. So I liked Lippert for it. I think I picked Kopecky. I doubled down on Kopecky. We'll see whether that was the right decision for this stage. But this show, as always, is brought to you by Zwift. Whether you're just starting out on your cycling journey or are looking for those final tune-ups ahead of a big event or race, Zwift is the online cycling platform that makes things fun, as well as being the named sponsor of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift and this podcast. If you want to find out more about Zwift, the platform, the race, go to Zwift.com, and if you want to try it out, you can get a free 7-day trial as well. But we've had a lot of crashes the last few days, Benji. The peloton's been really nervous, and that it continued today, although there were less large-scale crashes compared to yesterday.
Yeah, certainly. Some crashes throughout the stage itself, but a very nervous peloton. Because once again, once you've got the tension of potential echelons, the nervousness to be in front, the team cars are probably shouting to the riders, keep yourself at the front. The echelons could happen at any point. Splits could happen because once again, the wind was pretty much on in the initial part of the stage. We saw short attempts at breakaways, but it's basically because the echelons are a danger that the peloton keeps those breakaways within a certain margin. If everybody tries to storm to the front of the peloton, the tempo in the peloton enlarges, goes up, and as a consequence, those attacks are caught very swiftly. But some weird attacks as well. Off camera, we had Alzini going in the breakaway, small attack, very normal. Van Dijk making a move, I think that was during one of the echelon sections. And even Marianne Vos was in the breakaway for a second. She had 6 seconds for a bit off camera, and I don't know what happened there, but she eventually got caught again after like 15 seconds in total or something. So not the craziest attack, but it was interesting to see very early on in the stage. 120 kilometers to go, but an attack that stick for a bit longer was Femke Gerritsen, who went in the breakaway together with Shabby, and they actually started fighting for the Queen of the Mountain jersey, basically. And Femke was the one that was taking that away from her previous, well, the previous QOM leader, which is Femke Marcus, also a rider from Park Hotel. So they're giving it from Femke to Femke at the Park Hotel team, this jersey at the moment. So yeah, she ended up taking the QOM jersey today. An attack by Amal Yusik a bit later. It's still 50k to go once we enter those final sectors of the race, and then splits started happening in the peloton, and Lorena Wibb is behind, and Van Vleuten was gone at the front. What was happening there?
Apparently, she was doing a Tom Dumoulin, which was, yeah, she was sick because it wasn't a planned toilet break or just caught short. Well, she was caught short. Apparently, she'd been feeling sick the last few days. And yeah, it like wasn't an ideal time to go to the toilet because they were in the middle of this hill section and teams were sending it. Phoebus had been on and off. I think Kopecki's positioning as someone who picked her had me a little bit nervous as well. So yeah, it's just hopefully something that she can get over. It's not something that the teams really capitalized on today with her having a bad day. And even the way she rode the Côte de Mutiny climb, I thought was pretty strange. Maybe she was just trying to set a tempo she was comfortable with and she was bluffing. But off her pacing, Pertino, I think, was dropped, her only surviving teammate. And as I said yesterday, when I didn't like it for the stage, I thought that 11 Ks is a long time before the Mont Bernard to be doing things solo, So interesting from Van Vleuten. I think she got through eventually, but yeah, I don't know, Benji. Like, can you? Dumoulin said that he always went well the day after having diarrhea. I swear he said that in an interview. I remember,
Uh,
yeah.
I have no clue, and I don't think I want to discuss that topic right now. I think when it comes to Van Vleuten, it was clear
AVV
that
winning tomorrow.
yeah, it's possible she can win tomorrow as a consequence of this. But now, like you said, she had been feeling not okay last few days. She did said in the interview after this race. But when it comes to this race, though, she indeed came back because her entire Movistar team dropped back to get her back to the peloton before that mutiny climb. And in that process, Wiebes and so forth came back, but that's kind of irrelevant because the mutiny climb is going to drop Lorena Wiebes anyway. So everything kind of comes back together except for the fact that we've got Amal Yusik still up the front who takes the first spot in the intermediate sprint. We've got another rider, Bredewold, once again, same attacker as in stage one, also in the breakaway, taking the second spot in the intermediate. And I think Kopecky won that intermediate from the peloton with Vos second. So a clear fight between Vos and Kopecky at that point, and in the last few days, to be honest. But on paper, Vos is quite a bit ahead with that stage win. And Kopecky will need to find a stage win somewhere, perhaps on this stage still. But like you said, she had a bit of a move earlier in the stage, but towards the end of the stage, I didn't really see her too much. And that mutiny came, you said it. We had pace from Van Vleuten at the start, but I feel like when we saw that climb, Molman is the one that really ups the tempo a bit in the middle of the mutiny climb, and AVV starts throwing her bike left and right to try to follow that. And Vollering, I don't know if she saw that, but she moved to the front past Molman and she started pacing with Hade at the front. And that was the nail in the coffin for a tiny bit at least for Marianne Vos, Utrup Ludwig, and also Labou, Juliette Labou. Those three riders were caught off the back of that group. The group's now thinned out to a very limited amount of riders. Your side pick from yesterday, Liana Lippert. Van Vleuten still surviving on the top here. Longo Borghini, Molman, Garcia, and Persico. Persico, like, she's riding a hell of a Tour de France Femmes so far.
She is officially climbing sprinty girl status, like team making it over this hill, and then she wasn't all right, too good in the final sprint, but it wasn't flat either. But yeah, she definitely can get over hills and then contest sprints afterwards. She spent a lot because on this climb, it's a repeat of I think Liège 21. Ludwig and Voss were dropped by Vanderbrecher, who was pacing for Vollering back then before she retired, and Voss is getting, I think, finessed a little bit by Ludwig. Like, it took a long, long time for that group to come back because ahead, all the impetus came out of the chase, out of the front group when Vollering crashed. She entered a left-hand corner on the hoods, slipped out. Don't know if she touched brakes. Don't know. The French commentator said it was glissant, which I assume means slippery road surface. Lippert
Yeah.
behind her, reacting, presumably touches brakes. She goes down. And so Mullman's left in this group with Longa Borghini, who's going for GC, we know that, and Van Vleuten, who's having an off day, and Persico, who's 8 seconds behind Voss. So she can take yellow if Voss stays off the back, and she can put more than 8 seconds into her through bonus or on the road. She starts pulling with Longa Borghini, and the chase behind eventually Voss and Ludwig go past the crashed riders, but then they join up with them. And there's a group like six, all changing turns, but it took a long time to come back, particularly when it was just ELB, Annemiek, sort of half and half pacing in Persico. And I feel Voss is doing a lot of the work, I think, to come back, is what I'm trying to get at here. What did you see? I think Moolman, when she was coming through, was just blocking. You could see on the commentary, SD Works director was saying, "Don't pull," but I think she was just blocking or slow pacing when she pulled.
I don't know, I had a mixed feeling about it. Like, I was looking at the race, and at certain points, it looks like she was spacing quite a bit. At certain points, it was like slower, and it was clear that the SD Works team car was probably saying to wait, like you mentioned. And we have Vollering coming back. Lippert, by the way, during that crash, not even in that second group, she's behind. So Labous certainly suddenly the first rider for DSM as well. And Labou keeps pacing. She was pacing behind Lippert earlier. She keeps pacing now. So there's a clear choice there when it comes to leadership that Labou is like the leader here, I would dare to say, for DSM based on that assumption so far. But you're right. Vos was one of the main engines in that chase. I'd argue that Utrup Ludwig also tried to work a bit, but they can benefit of the fact that Vos needs to try and save her yellow jersey. They can try and eat her plate first before eating their own plate of energy, if that makes any sense. That's a Dutch sentence, but I just translated that very literally.
What's the other one
Anyway,
about potato? The
what?
Bredenwald was it Chasse patat?
Just patat. Yes, yes, yes. When you're completely done for.
Yeah,
So
that
you
was before. But yeah, that's another. I don't know if that's a Belgian or Dutchism, um, or it's even indeed French. But yeah, they. What's curious here is that Annemiek van Vleuten was able to come back after being dropped on the last climb of the day. They all come back. The Ludwig Voss group with Vollering. Lippert was unfortunately we didn't see, but she might have taken a longer time to get her bike set up, or I don't know what happened. I think Lippert was going to win this stage still. I think she was cost the win by this crash. Vollering in front of her, but they get to Mont Bernard. Mullman paces it hard. ELB follows it, no problem. There's bonus seconds ahead. Nivea Doma is looking good too. But Longoborghini takes the bonus, and Annemiek van Vleuten's like properly dropped. Not just like, oh, that she didn't want to contest the bonus sprints. She was like 10 to 15 seconds
yeah,
dropped. And the group in front doesn't really realize yet. And they put Vollering on the front. If I was to design SD Works 2 liter strategy, Benji, it would have been both Vollering and Mullman pull, and they try and convince Longoborghini to. She won't, but try. And Nuvia Doma, who knows, she might pull, like
yeah.
it's Nuvia Doma, and both pull hard. And then I don't even know about the final sprint. I would have liked Vollering last year, but I think asking Vollering to go on the front, who's going to conserve for the sprint as well, and not put more time into Van Vleuten, and Mullman not pull, that's just not the optimal way to do it from my perspective. And you have to pull. It's Van Vleuten. You can't take any mercy.
Yeah, I think so as well. They didn't really benefit from the weakness that Van Vleuten had on that final climb. And yeah, you're right. 10, 15 seconds is quite a bit. And if they keep that up throughout the finish line, then it's going to be hard for Van Vleuten to come back. And to be honest, like, I thought Van Vleuten was like properly done for on the climb. And I'm still shocked, even with the tempo that they rode in the front group, which was not the fastest, but also not. They were not riding tourist tempo, Alaphilippe and Fulsang in that Amstel of like 2, 3 years ago. Last kilometer that everybody came back. Like, this is a bit different than that. They were still pacing, and Van Vleuten was able to come back to that, and it looked like she was completely done for when she arrived at the back of the group, and she stopped like 5 meters from it, then retried to get to the wheel. It was crazy, but it's a wonderful performance to get back to that wheel. Clearly not in the best form of her life at the moment, and she kind of saves it there. And you're right, SD Works. The question there is, what was their plan for the final, like you mentioned? Like, when I saw this profile, we see those 14% sectors in there. Then you start thinking, is it too much for a Vollering perhaps to have that happen? But she was pretty damn good on Murder back in the day. Like, I would on paper have said Vollering before this stage.
Yeah, I think
Because,
so.
but we obviously don't know the internal thought process there. I don't think they like working for each other. We've seen that throughout the season, let's be honest about it. And throughout this finish, I was expecting Molman to get to the front and to start doing a lead out for Vollering to increase her chances of winning this race, and that was not the case at all.
Yeah, I think Moldman had better legs, but it's hard to know for sure. I mean, it looks like that from the results sheet. I think the fact that it was so steep probably tilted it in Moldman's favor. That being said, I don't think she's I don't know. I don't think she's even. Well, I was about to say I don't think she's better than Nuvia Doma on this finish, but Nuvia Doma does what she does. She kicked really, really early with Voss in the wheel, and it looks like it's going to be Voss, a repeat of yesterday, who's going to come out of the wheel late. And in fact, it's Ludwig in the Danish national champs jersey coming from nowhere and just destroys everybody to take her second World Tour win and the biggest win of her career. She's not won a race apart from the Danish national champs since that World Tour Burgos first World Tour win last year, and she put 2 seconds on the road into Mariana Voss in this finish. Now, I know Voss had to work pretty hard in the last half an hour, 40 minutes of this race, and I think that did make a difference, but Ludwig on these sort of finishes, she seems to be very good, and I don't. She's not really repeated the Murder Hui 2020 or 2021 performance in the last year, from what I've seen on the sort of 3 minutes very steep, and even on Mutiny, she literally got dropped on a Murder Hui
Yeah,
equivalent in this stage. But
exactly.
on the shallower or very short punches, like today, like that profile in the Basque Country, Ojo Guarena, was 1200 meters 5%, and she beat Van der Breche and Nuvia Doma and Longoborghini on that last year. So she seems good at the stuff that doesn't require 3 minutes plus, 2 minute, 2.5 minutes plus really high watts per kilo, but she's got a really good 20-second burst, 15-second burst if it's a drafting sort of climb or just a really short punch, is what I can see. Or she just had a good day. Could be that as well.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I agree with your analysis when it comes to a triple Ludwig again. It seems like there's also a two-part attack in there. Like we see in today's finish that it's got the steep portion first, then it flattens out towards the finish line. Is it because it flattens out that she's got the chance to come back and so forth? Because her positioning on the steeper section was like, I didn't expect her to win at all until we came to the part where it flattens out. And that kind of equivalents to the top of Murhui that kind of flattens out at the top. So perhaps there's that thing where she's got that extra kick after a steep section, while the others spent it on the steep section.
I think so. I think Nuvia Doma also triggered Voss early as well, and maybe that let Ludwig moderate her efforts a bit better. But yeah, she wins the stage ahead of Voss. Mullman third. She takes 4 bonus too. Persico fourth. Longoborghini fifth. Nuvia Doma sixth. They're all on 2 seconds. Garcia seventh on 6. Vollering on 8. Labou on 11. Van Vleuten on 20. So she really was having a bad day. She was lucky to not lose a minute today, and she could have easily. Voss retains yellow for now, 16 seconds ahead of Persico and Nuvia Doma. Longoborghini on 21. She has 30 seconds on Mullman, who has 6 seconds on Vollering. Annemiek van Vleuten's on 1:14. Voss will. She retains yellow, so she won't wear green, but she's leading green. Wiebes will wear green on her behalf tomorrow. KOM, it's Femke Goritze, as Benji already mentioned. Julie de Vilda still leading the young riders because it's under 23. Ken Stram leading team. So FDJ, horror day yesterday. Horrific. Cavalli, I think she confirmed, or the team confirmed, that she has no fractures in her skull. But hopefully she recovers. That doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't have any other injuries. So hopefully she recovers after that terrible crash, but nothing better for the team than a big, big win and a surprise win today. And a few things went Ludwig's way. She played it smart, I think, as well, but she was the strongest in the finish. I definitely still think Liana Lippert got really unlucky here. She's lost 2 minutes in the end, and so that suggests to me that she might also have been a bit banged up and injured after that crash, because she was on like 40 seconds and it's gone to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you look at her Cote de Fossil Loop 20 in the 2021, yes, last year, the course, super fast on that sort of thing. So anyway, big shame for her. But Labou's good. Any last thoughts on this finish before we preview tomorrow, Benji?
Honestly, I really enjoyed it. The stage brought a lot more than I thought it would. I thought that there would be moves on that Mutiny climb, but also the splits beforehand and so forth. And there's some weakness when it comes to Van Vleuten. I don't wish that upon Van Vleuten in any way when it comes to this, though. Like, I don't like seeing a rider being ill. I'm happy that we didn't have a rider for GC crash out of the race like yesterday. That's a big win when it comes to today's stage. And honestly, looking more and more at Longoborghini, I'm starting to feel like that move from yesterday together with the move from today. She gains time on certain competitors throughout. Like, her position in GC is quite well, and that's an advantage that is going to be useful in the mountains, because in the mountains I didn't rate Longoborghini on the same level as some of our other competitors. So that advantage will be useful there. So it's so intriguing that we've got people already taking an advantage on these first few stages, with the mountains being the ones where they're not on paper the same level as a top Van Vleuten, but will Van Vleuten be at the top level? Apparently, Norsgaard said in an interview to ATV, I think Danish TV, I'm not sure about that, that she's getting better along the way. So hopefully for her, by the time we reach the mountains, then we can see a full scale Van Vleuten launch and do some damage.
Hope well tomorrow. I think Trek need to go all in on Longbourgini GC. Her legs look really, really good on the short climbs. Her handling is superb. Her race savvy. Well, I mean, in Amstel last year, I didn't like it, but she definitely does know how to work her way around a group. She won Paris-Roubaix this year in a long what did she win that by? 23 seconds. Like she can stay away solo. She won Strade before, second in Strade last year. She's won Plouay last year. I think tomorrow, which I'm foreshadowing, is the Chemin Blanc stage from Troyes to Bar-sur-Aube, 126 Ks. You can tell I've just come from France or Paris today. The long drive. It has 4 white gravel sectors. The majority of which, 3 of which, are after sort of 1 to 1,500 meter short punchy climbs, 6%. One of them, the third one, is 5.5 Ks at 3% on the gravel. There is some gravel descending, 2 short ones in the second sector, and I think Trek should launch a raid with Van Dyke up the road. They have to, and I know it sounds very, very harsh, but Van Vleuten's team is not as good as Trek. Van Vleuten's weak at the moment. Well, was weak today, no guarantee tomorrow, but
Yeah.
not looking good. SD works. I would say Kopecky disappointed me today a little bit. Majerus and Roycer might not be on their best form. We don't know. They might be, but are they going to be on their spring form? I'm not sure. Trek look good. Longbourgine looks good. I think you get Van Dyke up the road if possible, or Cordon Rago, or someone like that, satellite rider, and then you have a Longbourgini attack to her, and you try and take a minute plus tomorrow.
Yeah, I think this is one of the stages, one of the last. Well, there's a few stages left, but this is an opportunity where those teams with strong team formations can try and indeed damage Van Vleuten. You're right; it's harsh. It's harsh, like trying to benefit from the state that Van Vleuten is in. But if that is the way to win this Tour de France Femmes, it's the way to do so. But it's not only about Van Vleuten; it's also about the other competitors around. If there's a chance to drop 1 or 2 riders that you're fighting with when it comes to the podium, that's a pretty damn big deal already as well. So I think Longoborghini finishing the Tour de France Femmes on the podium would already be amazing. But if she can do better, that's even greater. And I think it's indeed a stage where that team should try something. When it comes to SD Works, it's so difficult to like figure out what they're gonna do because on paper you'd say that they've got 2 leaders, they can play those together well, but they don't really play together well. I always, when they're in a group with 2, expect them to not actually ride for each other in the end. But today it felt like at certain points Volring was riding for Molman and not necessarily that they weren't riding for each other. Or you think I'm wrong in that?
Well, also, but then you have Mullman waiting for Vollering so that fast riders come back and AVV comes back for Vollering to lead out the sprint for Mullman. Like there's also that's not lining up to me either. Like if you're happy with Mullman for the finish,
Yeah.
you should be happy with Persico, Longoborghini, Mullman, and a not very well Van Vleuten. And so I think they then tried. I don't know. They might have missed a trick. I don't. It's hard because I myself before the race was saying SD Works should do this, SD Works should do that, based on my expectation of their form from other races, from Peak Roycer, who has been a beast all year, Vollering winning every stage in GC of Basque, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not in that shape. Maybe Kopecki's not either. But it'll be interesting tomorrow. Like whether SD Works, are they just going to go for the stage win for Kopecky, who needs points and who hasn't won a stage yet, or I don't know. But I think the team with Balsamo, Cordon Rigaud, Van Anrooy, Van Dyke, Longoborghini, they're looking really, really good, and I'm expecting. I think Longoborghini wins the stage tomorrow. Anyway, that's all from us today. Thanks for listening. As always, should be another cracking stage of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift tomorrow, and we'll see you with a recap of it then. Ciao.